On today's show,
does missing the playoffs hurt LeBron's legacy? And will the Lakers attract a marquee free agent this summer?
Andrew Bogut is back, Eric Bledsoe isn't going anywhere, and pardon me, it's getting a little dusty in here.
And the Phoenix Suns own the Milwaukee Bucks. Yeah, it's weird.
It's Tuesday, March 5th. The starter starts now.
Good evening, sweet world, and welcome to The Starters, presented by Jack Daniel's Old No. 7 and Tennessee Honey. I'm J.E. Skeets, alongside me as always, Tass Mellis. We got the Aussie Lee Ellis, and over yonder, that's the bearded one, that's Trey Kirby.
Hey-o!
Hey, yo! Trey, what's up tonight?
Well, I'm here at the internet looking for your best tweets at hashtag The Starters. And guys, the NBA 2K League held their second ever draft today, and to the surprise of no one, guys with gamer tags Rhea and Gradient went numbers 1 and 2 as expected. They say they're the Odin and Durant of this draft. But further down in the draft pool were some other great names like Grant Monster, Nacho Trainer, and my personal favorite, Man in a Car. All of which brings us to today's question. What would the starters' gamer tags be? Need you guys to give us some nicknames. For instance, maybe we could go by things such as the Bearded One for myself.
Yeah.
Pretty self-explanatory. Task, as usual, Money Mellis. We can
Cash.
call J.E. Skeets a nickname in its own right. Skeets Bomb. And of course, Lee is going by Mr. Very Solid, because when it comes time to hit those free throws, you know he's very solid at the line.
Confidence, baby, confidence!
Yeah, free throw rating 99, layup rating 69. Not great, but we want to hear from you. So let us know on Twitter, what are the starters' gamer tags? Send them to us at hashtag The Starters. We'll hear from you later.
All right, get your tweets in. On tonight's show, we got the up-down report. We're going to play a little fill in the blank. We got a very solid play from Mr. Very Solid himself. But let's start here with a little true or false Lakers edition. A lot to unpack here. Maybe the last time we talked about the Lakers for a while. Take it away, Trey.
That's right, Skeets. The Lakers lost the Battle of LA last night, and with that, most likely a playoff spot. It'd be the first time LeBron has missed the postseason since '05, and will extend the Lakers' postseason drought to 6 straight seasons, which is crazy considering the franchise has missed the playoffs just 5 other times. Guys, true or false? Missing the playoffs hurts LeBron's legacy.
I think that's false.
Okay.
This team is not that great around him. This team doesn't have a Kevin Love like he did last year with the Cleveland Cavaliers. They have no one on Kevin Love's level. And it's still a winning team when LeBron plays this year. They're above 500 when he plays. They would have made the postseason if he wasn't injured. I don't think it hurts his legacy when we look back at it. The team's just not that good around him. I think we'd all come to that conclusion if we look back at the end of his career.
He's a 4-time MVP. He's a 3-time champ. He's been to the finals 9 times. Missing the playoffs on this bad season isn't going to all of a sudden detract away from that. We talked about it after he won that finals for the Cavs. That basically cemented LeBron's legacy. Whether or not you have him first, second, third, or 10th all-time in your own personal ranking, it's not really going to change anything. It's been a bad season, no doubt. One of his worst seasons in terms of the production for the fact that they won't get there. But numbers-wise, he's putting up what he's done for his entire career. He hasn't been terrible. He hasn't had his best season by any means. But this one is one of those seasons that's like, he went to LA, things didn't work out. He's got some time to get better there, but this is not going to all of a sudden undo all that good work.
Right, in the grand scheme of things, right? You're not going to look back, you're not going to remember really this little blip on LeBron's unbelievable legacy, because like you do it with other guys. Like, we don't really talk about Olajuwon's 7 points per game with the Raptors at the end of his career, or Iverson bouncing around at the end of his career, Jordan with the Wizards, we don't even talk about.
Huh?
So
What?
this, we're not really going to remember, 20, 30 years from now. All that said, it doesn't help his legacy. Some people are calling it a little bit of a stain. Because I think what we're going to remember with this year, no, hear me out on this though.
I just like calling it a stain.
Yeah, I think we are going to look at this season of LeBron was the year that he became sort of human again. He had to give up the best player in the game title. I think he lost that this year to either KD, to Giannis, whoever else you want to give it to. He also looked human because he had an injury, which he hadn't had really for his entire career, a major injury with the groin, missing those 17, 18 games. And then we also found out, like, that whole hypothetical, we used to always say, hey, put LeBron on any team and he could make him a playoff team. Well, that's not the case maybe anymore. with playing 55,000 minutes plus on this guy. So
If
I
he's,
think
if
made
if he's
him
healthy,
human.
they still make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Well, okay, well, just creeping into the playoffs is not high on LeBron's
Yeah, but
like.
for a
Well,
team
that's what they did.
achievement
That's
list.
essentially what they did. What he did last year in a worse conference.
Okay, even if the Lakers snuck into the playoffs here, you're gonna have them running all the way through to the finals like you always did in the East. No, there's two
No
different
one
beats.
said that.
Right.
What I'm concerned with is that LeBron is very aware of his legacy. He's quite aware, and I wonder if he sits down with Luke Walton and Magic Johnson now that they're out of the postseason, and they say, maybe I sit just to show people that I'm injured, and maybe to him that's a better message out to the public that I am injured and that I'm not feeling right. But to me, I think people would sniff that out right away.
Well, let's get
Right,
to
quick.
that. That's the next cue here, really.
No, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Anyways, the
I got way more to
Lakers
say.
are most likely out of the playoffs, but they still got 18 games left in the regular season. LeBron, in his 16th season, he's played literally 55,000 minutes, and he's still got 3 years left on his deal. So people like Tass are saying maybe he should take a chill pill. True or false? The Lakers should shut down LeBron.
Well, you see that quote there. He said, unless I'm hurt, I'm not sitting games. But in the same interview, he said, I'm going to talk to Luke Walton.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk to Magic Johnson. And if it doesn't work out for us, or if it doesn't make sense for us, then maybe I'll sit some time out. So which one is it? I would refrain from talking like that because
If
you
you were
just get
LeBron.
you just get compared to Kobe, and all the Kobe heads just go nuts and just say Kobe would never have said that. Michael would never have said that. I think you do what Clutch Sports did with Anthony Davis and what the Pelicans are doing and just ride it out. Even if it's a losing season, you win more if not necessarily win on the floor, but you're looked at better if you just ride it out and you don't sit out for me.
He can't sit until they're mathematically eliminated for me, because then it looks like the Lakers are waving the white flag, and they just can't do that. They can't send that message to their fans and to other teams that, oh, you know what, we didn't think we were going to make it, so LeBron just had. He's going to get 2 months off this year, which he hasn't had in 13 years or something like that.
Because he's not going to make the playoffs.
They're not going to make the playoffs. We know that, but it's more about a symbol of now resilience to say, even though it looks tough for us, we're going to keep fighting until we cannot make it, and then he can start to sit because they're not playing for anything from that point on. But I think LeBron and the Lakers, especially Luke Walton, he doesn't want him to sit because Luke wants every single opportunity to save his job potentially getting to the playoffs. He's not going to. There's no chance.
Whether
next stage,
LeBron plays or not is
No.
not going to save Luke Walton's
but
job
let's
at
say
this
they
point.
do get
You
to
know
the
that.
playoff. I know,
Yeah.
but let's say they do get to the playoffs, and let's say they do upset someone in the first round. Then Luke's a chance. But if LeBron sits and they don't make it, he's gone no matter what.
Here's what's going to happen. LeBron is going to pass Michael Jordan on the NBA's all-time scoring list. That's likely going to happen in the next game. He's only 13 points behind MJ. So that's going to happen. Then you're going to see the Instagram post, and we're going to talk about it and how amazing it is. And we'll ignite the conversation of comparing LeBron to Michael Jordan. And then at some point, because they're not mathematically out of the playoffs. Yeah, we should say that. But the Clippers and the Spurs, the two teams in the 7th and 8th spot, they already own tiebreakers against the Lakers. I mean, and the Lakers have a tough schedule. They can't even beat the easy teams. 5 of their final 18 games are against teams that are under 500, so they're playing a lot of good teams. They're not going to make it. I think we all are agreeing with that. So he's going to sort of re-hurt this injury, or something's going to happen, and he is going to shut down. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. There's going to be nothing gained with him playing out the final 9 or 10 games or whatever it is for no reason. Let your young guys get more reps. Let's see if they can get better. Maybe you help increase their trade value, and you go from there. There'll be nothing gained, I guess what I'm saying, from LeBron.
But they
playing
don't
the
need to
final
do that
10.
until it's over.
Mathematically,
Yeah,
I get that.
yeah.
You're probably right.
And that's what he was saying by saying, I'm going to talk
Yeah.
to Luke and Magic and sort out the situation and survey the field. And yeah, if we're out of it, why not?
Trey, our final one.
All right, Paul George passed on the Lakers. The failed Anthony Davis trade helped torpedo the season, and even Carmelo Anthony isn't interested in donning the Forum blue and gold. Outside of signing LeBron, it's been a tough 12 months in La La Land, but guys, there's always the summer, or is there? True or false? The Lakers won't attract a marquee free agent this summer.
I think this is true, and this is going to be the biggest challenge of Magic and Rob's tenure in Los Angeles, because Magic was brought in as a bit of a star power name, like Magic Johnson here, former legend, MVP, champ, but it hasn't worked so far, apart from LeBron,
They got
obviously.
LeBron, yeah.
But other guys, notably Paul George, didn't even give them an interview, and so the Lakers are going to have to find a way to improve or repair that reputation they have, because it hasn't worked so far being good enough to say, we've got Magic Johnson, everyone's just going to want to come and talk to him and play for him. So, and I don't think they're going to do it. I think you can take Kevin Durant off the board. He's not going there. Kawhi Leonard, he doesn't want the bright lights of the Lakers. He may go to the Clippers. Kyrie maybe think, depending on how things end there in Boston, but I think these other guys, Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris, Klay Thompson, no way. I don't think they want to play with the Lakers considering what's happened this season. They don't want to be there with all the chaos when you definitely don't even know if you're going to make the playoffs.
I think that's false. I think they will get somebody, and I'll hedge it by saying Anthony Davis may be traded there as well. I think there is a
Possibility
legitimate
still.
chance because we don't know what's going to happen with the Kyrie situation. And let's remember, we're calling LeBron James the best player in the world until a week ago, okay? So if you are a free agent or you're Anthony Davis, you get to go play with the best player in the world until March 1st or whatever it was. He's still a great player. He can still carry you in a playoff series. He just can't carry you through 82 games. And who knows what Magic can rob you, but I think there's enough cards out there. Maybe Jimmy Butler decides to leave Philly. There's someone I think will go.
So maybe not a Durant or Kawhi, but that sort of second-tier level star player, all-star player,
I think there's
in
a
like
chance.
some of
I
those
think there's
guys
a
we were
good
showing
chance.
you. Let's hear from you guys. Let us know what you think on Twitter. Hashtag the starters. When we come back, we'll discuss Bledsoe's contract extension and the Warriors looking to bring back an Aussie. Don't go anywhere.
The Starters is presented by Jack Daniel's Old No. 7 and Tennessee Honey.
Hey, what's better than this? The up-down report. Thumbs up and thumbs down. First one, yesterday, the Bucks announced that they have signed guard Eric Bledsoe to a contract extension. Sources told ESPN that Bledsoe's deal is for 4 years and worth $70 million, though the team didn't release those financial details. Bledsoe in his second season, borderline all-star with the Bucks, so they lock him up here. You guys up or down on this contract extension for EB? Up, and, whoa.
I'll go down from Eric Bledsoe's point of view
Oh.
because he was eligible for about $140 million for this contract. So he left a ton of money on the table. That's very rare. Guys do leave a little bit of money, but basically not 50% of what they could have gotten out there. You mentioned it. He's had an all-star caliber season.
Yep.
He could have asked for a lot more and got a lot more out in the free market. I like that he's trying to be loyal to the Bucks and trying to stay there and build something, but that's a ton of money that he left behind.
It's a heck of a turnaround from what we thought of him last year around this time going into the postseason. Didn't fare well in his first postseason with the Bucks. Mike Budenholzer and Giannis Antetokounmpo are just two keys for him to really excel, to show his skills. His number one skill is driving to the hoop, showing that athleticism. Giannis gives him space. Mike Budenholzer's system gives him space. They kind of got him paid. You know, it was a very different scenario 12 months ago, I should say.
Yeah, and from the Bucks standpoint, Giannis in the preseason said that he's very happy in Milwaukee, but the thing that keeps players happy is winning and franchises making the right moves, getting the right players. Eric Bledsoe has been helping the Bucks win a ton this year, so I think it's a smart move to keep a solid player who Giannis clearly likes playing with, keep him there. He's got 2 years left on his contract, and it seems like forever until that comes up, but that's what it seemed like with Anthony Davis, too. It can be like that in a snap. Smart move to lock in Eric Bledsoe.
All right, our next one. According to reports, the Warriors intend to sign Aussie center Andrew Bogut for the remainder of the season. A few formalities to be worked out. Got to get a work visa, got to get some clearance from FIBA, but he's likely returning to the franchise he won a title with in 2015. He just completed his NBL season with the Sydney Kings, MVP, best defensive player, NBL first team, so not bad for Bogut there. But are you guys up or down on Bogut returning to the Warriors here? Does he have anything left to give? Thumbs up, thumbs up.
Yeah, I think he does as an insurance policy for DeMarcus Cousins for the Warriors. I think that's what he's primarily coming for because he can still defend. He's very good at the offensive end. He knows the offensive sets for the Warriors, so it's not like they have to really introduce him to how they play. I think he's going to slot right back in there and be a good addition to that team.
How do you know all that's true? It's been 3 years, really, since Andrew Bogut played meaningful minutes in the NBA. I watched his highlight tape from the NBL. It's all alley-oops and blocking people at the rim because he's one of the few NBA caliber players over there. I don't think he's going to make a huge difference, but, you know, if Nikola Jokic is going off and they need to put a guy in there to just smash into him for 6 minutes, Bogut will do a good job at that.
I like the vets. Just bring him. He knows what he's doing. It makes sense to me. I just thought he was done in the NBA.
Yeah, it was a little
Just
shocking.
puzzling.
It is shocking that he's coming back. All right, final one here, guys. Dwayne Wade, he added another memorable moment to his One Last Dance tour last night after pulling Kevin Huerter aside for the old jersey exchange. Yeah, Wade picked the Hawks rookie after learning that Huerter wore his shoes and rocked number 3 growing up because of Flash. Very, very cool moment there. You guys up or down on Wade's surprising, really, Huerter with this jersey swap. He didn't tell them they were going to do this. Thumbs, yeah, okay,
All
no
thumbs.
surprise here.
Yeah, a really nice moment for Kevin Huerter. I mean, to play against your hero like that and then to get that photo and that opportunity in his last season, memory he'll cherish
He
forever.
looked like legit shell shocked.
Yeah,
like
he did.
that Wade was like coming to get him and then
Yeah.
telling him here, like, like it's pretty cool.
Yeah, gifts are cool, but surprise gifts are even better. Dwayne Wade got a cool jersey out of it too. The Throwbacks Hawk
Yeah,
is the
good
win
point.
all around for sure.
And we saw this clip pre-show, and we both said, Trey and I said, it's good that he was wearing an undershirt
Yeah.
during
Kevin
this.
Huerter?
Kevin Huerter. Yeah. Not to say that he's got a bad bod by any means, but I think he'd be happier
Yeah.
seeing that photo later on in life.
With the brownies in, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess so, yeah. He's also, his skin is just as white as the tank top he was wearing there. We gotta get her on the beach every once in a while. That's awesome. All right, we gotta take a break. When we come back, pass me a quarter because the Suns are big buck hunter pros. Remember that game?
It's got to be $1.
Oh, it's probably way more than a quarter, you're right. You hear the music. Time to play a little fill in the blank. Trey.
All right, the much ballyhooed Western Conference playoff race has been a bit of a dud as only the Kings at 3.5 games out are really within striking distance. But out east, 2.5 games separate the 10th seeded Heat from the 6th seeded Pistons. Guys, fill in the blank. The playoff race to watch is blank.
It's the Kings' race for the 8th seed in the Western Conference. Just a few weeks ago, we got all excited. We were talking it up. Man, this Western Conference playoff race is going to be awesome. We got like 5 teams battling for the final 2 spots. Well, you look at the standings now, and it's really just the Kings who have sort of any chance of catching your Clippers or the Spurs. And the Clippers, well, the Clippers beat the Kings all 4 times this season, so they don't have the tiebreaker there. The Kings do have a tiebreaker over the Spurs, and they play one more game. I mean, it will be meaningless in the tiebreaker situation, but huge in terms of maybe gaining a full game on them. Kings have a fairly easy schedule. I'm just rooting for them to make it interesting. I don't maybe love their chances, but to make it interesting.
It's just the Spurs trying to knock
No, I
out the
know.
old Spurs. They're just always there. I'm going with the actual 3 versus 6 matchup in the Western Conference because right now it's OKC versus Utah, just like it was last season.
Rematch!
Yes, and remember, Utah won that going 4-2. And this season, the Thunder are 3-0 up over Utah. So you would feel that the Thunder would go in as favourites this season. I think they were pretty much favourite last season, but obviously Utah liked that matchup, and I'd love to see another series like it was. 6 games, but they're all pretty good games.
Yeah.
So hopefully that happens again.
I'm watching the Rockets because before the season, they were sort of the general consensus second best team in the Western Conference behind the Golden State Warriors. They didn't start like that. They started pretty poorly. But now with the Thunder faltering, the Rockets, they're knocking on the 3rd seed's door, and they're playing really, really well. I would consider them the second best team besides the Golden State Warriors. And they could legitimately have a couple home playoff series, maybe line up with the Denver Nuggets in the second round if they get to that 3rd seed. I just love the way that they're playing. So it's making it pretty interesting in the middle of the pack there.
All right, Trey, our next one.
All right, the Bucks better hope they don't meet the Phoenix Suns in the NBA Finals because last night, Phoenix beat Milwaukee, locking in a season sweep for the Suns. That's right, the team with the worst record in the West beat the team with the best record in the entire league both times they played this year, guys. Doesn't make sense, but fill in the blank. The Suns owning the Bucks is blank.
Frustrating for Phoenix Suns fans because they've been so bad this season, yet they've beaten the best team in the regular season twice. They beat them in Milwaukee, as Trey mentioned, then last night. And last night wasn't like the Milwaukee Bucks rested their players. They were on the 3rd game in 4 nights, sure.
yeah.
But they played Giannis and everybody till the end. They were trying to win. So this was just a team that actually fought and scrapped and tried its best. It's just, why has it taken until this stage of the season for them to start playing with a little bit more endeavour?
Yeah, I went with the Suns owning the Bucks is improbable, and I'll expand on that. It's the most improbable season series sweep ever. Dan Feldman at NBC Sports, he crunched the numbers. The Bucks have won 75% of their games this year. The Suns have won just 22%. That is a 53% percentage gap there between the winning team and the losing team. That would be, if it continues this season at that sort of rate with their winning records, the biggest ever. The biggest ever for a season sweep of a bad team beating a good team. So, yeah, crazy. That was a great game, great comeback. 31-12 run by the Suns to end that game. And you see those flashes of, Ayton as your big guy in the middle and Booker and
So where's
some of
it
the other
been?
young guys. Yeah, it's frustrating. You're right. It's a good word for it.
I wrote that it's okay. Everything's fine because the Suns were up double digits in the 4th quarter. The Bucks were, and they just let off the pedal.
Yeah.
they are the last team to let off the pedal in the NBA by my estimation. I think the other teams have all sort of chilled out to some degree. The Bucks have kept it going here till the three-quarter mark of the season. They're doing fine. They're doing great. I've been really impressed with the way they've been so steady through the first 3 quarters of the season.
All right, Trey, final one.
All right, the Kyrie Irving quotes keep on coming because at yesterday's practice, Kyrie was asked about his irritable mood and he had a bunch to say. As he explained, I didn't really come into this game to be cameras in my face, be famous, be a celebrity. It's a little hard for me. I wanted those things when I was younger, but now I just want to play basketball at a very high level. Guys, fill in the blank. Kyrie's I don't want to be famous comments are blank.
As refreshing as an ice-cold Pepsi. That then gave us Uncle Drew, which he then made a movie about. It's very, very weird. It's just very strange. The latest strange thing from Kyrie Irving, the latest comment. I don't want to be famous, but you just starred in a movie. What?
Yeah. He's just trying to build drama for the
I guess
sequel.
so. Yeah,
I
the
think.
sequel. Yeah. Did you watch it, Uncle
No,
Drew?
I haven't. No, I will watch it at some point. I said fame is a monster because sometimes you don't want it.
Is that a Lady Gaga?
Well, she is the
lyric?
fame monster.
Yeah.
But, you know, like he's just a basketball fan. He loves playing basketball, and it's turned him into a fame monster.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Hey, what'd you go?
I wrote puzzling because Kyrie's a very smart guy. He gets it. He's aware of what he's doing every time he's on the microphone. He just has to understand that's part of the gig. It's part of the job, even though he doesn't like it, which many NBA players don't. And you just have to treat it as such. You just got to tell the media to bug off, and you do that by just using 1 or 2 word answers. Then you don't get the slap back.
We gotta take one more break. When we come back, Lely's very solid play. We've got a players-only doubleheader tonight on TNT, and it's a good one. Rockets versus the Raptors up in Toronto, and then Celtics Warriors from Oakland. All right, we asked you what would be the starters' gamer tags. We got drafted to play 2K or something like that. Got a few of the best answers, Trey.
Yeah, some good suggestions for all of us. Zach says Lee could be the baguette beast. Catch the drop for his top 5 or 6 bread. Bolt says the task could be the Greek geek. Hey, it rhymes.
Thank you.
Dan says I can be pocket dogs. And the best suggestion is from Ben, who says Steve can go by Phil Elder. I don't think it'll ever work, though.
Nah, that's weird.
Yeah.
All right. Tomorrow, Wednesday, Lee,
Yeah.
you're paying off your February pick'em loss.
Okay.
All right. Well, you see it there.
Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yes, Lee will be doing the Mrs. Doubtfire pick'em payoff. Now, what does that mean? You got to tune in tomorrow to find out. 6 p.m. Eastern on NBA TV. You excited? You
Very
worried?
excited.
Concerned?
Mrs. Doubtfire is the greatest movie of all time.
Okay, well.
I'm looking forward to it.
All time.
Well, it's up there. It's up there.
All right.
What a punishment.
Tonight's game. Thunder Wolves. Trey, the only one taking the Thunder on the road. Everybody else taking the Timberwolves at home. Good luck. Lely, VSP.
Yeah, get your passports out for this one because it is a beauty. Starts with Australia, goes to Austria, they are different countries, then goes to Latvia and ends with the old USA for 3. That's beautiful. There it is. That's what I call a very solid passport play.
Excellent. Trey already said it. If you want to hear Lee give you his top 5/6 all-time breads, go check out the Drop podcast. Okay, we got a fan side. One fan side.
Yeah, this was T-Nice down at the Fortress last week.
Wow.
Put
That's
together a
V
nice.
nice.
Yes, nice little
That's very
drawing
nice.
of us all.
All right, keep the signs coming. We'll see you tomorrow night with Mrs. Doubtfire. First tonight, people.